region. This is Washington Business Report with ABC7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
And thanks for joining us. We've got lots of business news this week. Companies across the Washington region are scrambling to prepare for a possible government shutdown. But first, in one of the biggest and most closely watched contract battles ever, the Air Force picked Boeing, not Airbus, to build the new generation of aerial refueling tankers. The prize? $35 billion for this contract, with even more money ahead for future tankers. The news came Thursday from Air Force Secretary Michael Donnelly.
Today, based on all evaluated criteria, price, and the results of a well-documented process, we announced that the Air Force has selected the KCX proposal provided by the Boeing Company.
I think what we can tell you is Boeing was a clear winner.
And Boeing and EADS both have a significant corporate presence here in Washington. So where the tanker decision will have a huge impact is right here in our area. Sean McCormick is vice president in Boeing's Government Operations Division. Sean, you see it here. Politico, Friday headline, Boeing pulls tanker upset. A lot of people were surprised. Describe the moment over at Boeing here in Roslyn when the announcement came.
Well, as you can well imagine, we were thrilled. There was a big cheer that went up as soon as Secretary Donnelly announced in public that Boeing had won the tanker contract. We had heard a few minutes earlier because they informed each of the offerers.
And by law, you told me yesterday it has to go on the website first, even before.
It has to go on the website first, so there's an official public announcement. But there was a lot of emotion in the room. This has been going on for 10 years. But I think the predominant emotion, once everybody settled down, was really pride. Pride that we're going to be able to build these jets for our men and women in uniform.
Okay, pride on Boeing's end, shock on Wall Street and throughout a lot of corporate America and businesses that had their eye on this. Why so little confidence in the Boeing bid? Why were so many people, including many Boeing officials, convinced that this contract was going to go to EADS?
Right. Well, there were, certainly within Boeing, we were well aware of the history of this competition and just what a tough competitor we were up against. EADS has a good bid. They had a good airplane that they were going to be bidding. They've sold it internationally. So have we. So we really sharpened our pencils here. We were concerned that EADS is a subsidized company, so we were concerned about at what level they were going to bid in this process.
Now,
so I think that accounted for some of it.
Anyone who missed the PR campaign, EADS is the European Association, the parent company of Airbus that bid on this contract. So there was a lot made over whether these were foreign jobs that were being subsidized, that were being paid for with an Air Force contract, or whether they'd be homegrown. You had a massive PR campaign saying this would account for 50,000 jobs here in the U.S. in the state of Washington and Kansas. But EADS says we're going to have 48,000 jobs in Alabama, building these right here in the U.S. Why the PR push from Boeing to suggest that this was all about American jobs?
Well, I think, first of all, we didn't think it was all about American jobs. We thought we had and we still do think we have the best jet. We think that we have the best offer for the Air Force for our men and women in uniform. This competition has been going on.
But your PR campaign, your radio ads didn't say we have the best jet. Your ad campaign was all about the jobs.
No, it wasn't all about the jobs, Rebecca.
But I missed the drive time for those ads.
Right. Well, admittedly, there was some discussion about jobs. And a big part of this was this campaign has been going on for 10 years. And a long time ago, politics started to surround this campaign. Would we have liked very much for this just to been all about the bottom line price of this aircraft and have a discussion in the Air Force without any PR or advertising? Yeah. But that just wasn't the reality. So we thought it was important to react to a lot of what we saw coming out from EADS about their jobs claims. It was only after they started making claims about jobs that we started putting out there what we thought was the right record.
Well, you heard Pentagon official Bill Lynn saying that by all measures, they feel like Boeing won fair and square. We want to get to some other topics, but tick off a few measures where you feel like Boeing did have the better product.
Well, I think that we have a proven platform that has been proved over the years in terms of a commercial aircraft platform. That our bid is based on the 767.
A lot of people, though, say the EADS tanker was bigger, could carry more, could do more on the job.
But again, not getting down into the weeds here, but we thought ours was the more efficient, more effective, and certainly lower cost to operate aircraft over the long term. We incorporated new technology like our 787 cockpit from our newest commercial aircraft, as well as some real innovations in boom technology technology as well. So this is a modern aircraft that responds to the desires of the warfighter. They laid out the requirements. We answered those requirements.
A lot of people still crying foul. A lot of very upset, not only politicians in places like Alabama, but overseas. A quote today from Germany's Deputy Economics Minister, Peter Hens. Let me read it to you. He said today, if you followed the political back and forth over the topic, you're left with a bitter aftertaste that leaves you uncertain whether it was really fair. People were taking stock of which aircraft was the most American, which is a new category in this kind of competition. Do you expect EADS to appeal this decision?
I don't know. Can't comment on that. That's going to be up to them. Yeah. And in terms of the politics, everybody wishes that politics never entered into this. Fact matters, it did. But we feel as though that we competed fair, we competed honorably, and ultimately the Air Force decided to go with our jet. And we're very happy about that.
So let me just ask you, it means a lot of jobs here in the Washington area. $20 million. Here's where the jobs were in the Washington area. $20 million over the past couple of years spent by Boeing on lobbyists. A fraction of that spent by EADS. What does $20 million in lobbyists buy you?
Well, first of all, we were competing against Northrop Grumman for a big part of this competition. So there was a lot of money spent. And all of that money isn't devoted entirely to the tanker contract. None of this actually gets you anything more than somebody listening to your argument. People on Capitol Hill and elsewhere in the government, these are smart people. They're going to make up their own minds about things. All this allows you is to make your case.
Well, the Pentagon says you won it fair and square. I know champagne was flowing last night, but now it's back to work and getting those tankers built. Unless there's an appeal, in which case you're still got to start the tankers anyway. So Sean McCormick, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rebecca.
And coming up, business leaders worry a government shutdown could impact everyone's pocketbook by slowing the recovery in the Washington region. Stay with us. Washington Business Report continues after the break.
Call on the Hurt Line, the Mike Slocum Law Firm, right here in D.C.
Cruise for Cash scratch-off. So what can I win?
Sam?
You can win up to $50,000.
Or instantly win a fabulous cruise vacation. Yes, you and a guest could fly first class to Florida and stay in a deluxe hotel before departing on a Royal Caribbean cruise vacation with spending money and onboard credit.
I'll take it. And the milk.
Play Cruise for Cash from the Maryland Lottery. With fabulous cruise vacations we can't wait to give away.
Ever had to face a struggle alone and wished you had backup? Well, now, imagine the stakes are as high as your hard-earned retirement and health benefits. It's Politics 101 that the people in that building respect the strength of groups of people more than individuals. Since 1921, NARF has represented active and retired federal employees on Capitol Hill, fighting for your benefits. Help us keep an eye on Capitol Hill. Federal employees and retirees, join NARF now.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Does it take two to tango?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Paul?
Oh, hey, Charlene.
What are you doing?
This is to help me with my online investing. I'm so overwhelmed by jargon and trading tools and data that I need to get as much blood to my brain as possible just to make sense of it all.
Touch the ball.
Whoa!
Make investing less complicated. Get ShareBuilder from ING Direct. No mumbo jumbo, no complicated website, no upside down.
Hey, my headache's gone.
If you thought moments like these only happened in the movies, take your star turn in a Mercedes-Benz S-Class and watch the stars arrive with Mercedes-Benz.
And welcome back. By this time next week, we'll know whether Congress manages to find a way to keep the government running past Friday. Nobody likes what will happen if the government shuts down. Certainly not federal employees sent home without a paycheck, but also the thousands of businesses in our region that count on federal contracts. We have two guests who are bracing for the impact of a possible government shutdown. Gigi Godwin is the president and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and Judy Stevenson is the president of Office Pro, a technology training company with a significant client base in the federal government. Ladies, welcome. Gigi, I should note the Greater Washington Board of Trade is worried enough about this possibility that they've got an emergency symposium Tuesday trying to tell their members what to expect, from legal ramifications to others, and it's open to non-members. Anyone that wants to attend can get tickets through the Washington Board of Trade. But what are you telling your members to prepare for?
Well, our members are very tuned into this. They are talking to their own customers, of course, all the different federal agencies. What is this going to mean? What will it mean for specific contracts? We are advising them with the best information that we can get a hold of. I think the big question is, what does it mean? What will this shutdown actually look like? Very unlikely that it will look just like the last one in 1995. So I think there's a big question about what it really means and who it will really affect this time.
Well, you brought one of your members today. Judy,
yes.
You're based in Gaithersburg.
Yes.
I was surprised to learn from Gigi earlier this week, Montgomery County is the second largest county in the nation when it comes to federal procurement contracts. How much of your revenue is dependent on your federal contracts?
Well, a quick analysis of our upcoming contracts would indicate that we could lose up to 50% of our business if the government shuts down.
So explain to me what happens, Gigi. Now, during the last shutdown, Congress was able to decide to pay government employees retroactively for the days lost. So you never get back that productivity that you've lost, but they got their paychecks back. How does it work for contractors? Is there any recourse for getting that money back?
Well, I'll let Judy go for that first.
No, it's basically it's a situation that's out of the control of our clients. So there will be classes, we're a training company, there will be classes that are just canceled that won't be rescheduled. That money's just lost.
You will not be reimbursed, you will not be paid for the full contract.
Correct.
And you can't get insurance to cover for government shutdowns, I don't think, so you've got to make other contingency plans.
Right.
So tell me, Gigi, what you advise your members to do in order to plan for this.
Well, diversify, but they've done that a long time ago. I think really for those federal contractors that have been in the business for a while, they have known what Judy knows, which is that you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. And many of our contractors also do commercial work. So it's about having a relationship with the agency that you work with, or agencies, and also having commercial clients so that you can weather the unexpected. And this is, I think that you mentioned something very interesting, which is the lack of productivity, the lost productivity, that never able to be reimbursed. We're also losing it from our federal employees, who are being forced to, instead of doing their jobs, are spending time trying to figure out how they're going to manage a possible shutdown and what that means. And I think we've been losing it for weeks.
And there's a lot of talk that if there is a shutdown, there may not be the money and the will to get that retroactive pay, so it may be federal employees also not reimbursed for that time loss. Judy, you can diversify, but the federal government wants and needs businesses like yours to exist. It saves them money to contract this out.
That's true.
How disappointed, how frustrated are you in the federal government that you may be facing this as a business owner?
Well, the thing is that if I ran my business that way, then we'd be out of business. I mean, there's the uncertainty, there's the lost productivity, there's the lost revenue, and it's not
just...
There's
the lawsuits that you would face if you suddenly canceled on a contract.
Well, sure, and plus the reputation. I mean, as a business owner, your reputation is all important, and if you treated your clients that way, then you certainly wouldn't be in business. And there's also a trickle-down effect. I mean, it's not just me. I mean, my contractors lose money, my vendors lose money, everybody sits idle. I've got employees who are not being productive. And I also can't develop new business because what I'm actually spending my time on is managing existing business.
Now, Gigi, even here in Roslyn, in our building, we've got State Department offices and others, but there are other private sector employees. You've got deli owners in Montgomery County. You've got dry cleaners that have located at places like the FDA, where there's nothing else. If those employees don't show up, those small business owners.
Oh, restaurants, cleaning services, security agencies. I mean, there's so many kinds of companies, all sorts of companies that are affected by this, both by federal employees being sent home or not able to work, and who knows what will happen there, as well as all the small businesses that depend on those contracts.
So it's not just a federal paycheck for an employee, it's a ripple effect through the whole economy.
Terrible ripple effect. And I think the other unintended consequences is the loss of confidence. I mean, as Judy said, you know, a business could never do that and stay in business because a loss of confidence on the part of your customer would be devastating. I think the customer in this case is the American people. I think that there's going to be real concern. It didn't go well last time. There were a lot of unhappy people that showed up at public parks and all sorts of places that didn't have the experiences they were expecting.
And as Jim Denninger says from the Greater Washington Board of Trade, he said it really had an impact on the economy then. We're trying to recover now. It couldn't be worse timing. Well, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
That's right.
Ladies, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, you don't need to be an avid business show viewer to know recent years have been brutal for the housing market. Some recently released figures show it's been a little less brutal to those of us in the Washington market, but there was still plenty of pain to be felt here. If you've owned a home in the Washington market for 5 years, new results show that it's worth nearly 20% less today than it was in 2006. But if Schadenfreude is your thing, take comfort. Other cities had it far worse. Phoenix and San Bernardino, California have seen home prices lose more than 49%. On the bright side, Washington area homes on average have appreciated 124.68% since 1991. Good news if you bought your home then, not so good if you bought it in 2006. And we'll be back with our Reporter Roundtable. Stay with us. Washington Business Report continues.
There's nothing that works like confidence. Especially with all this to back it up.
At the Lincoln Spring Forward event, get an attractive sign and drive lease plus 4 years complimentary maintenance on a Lincoln MKZ.
It's not just luxury, it's smarter than that.
With Fios, when you're watching the picture, it just jumps out at you.
It was like, wow, bang.
Decisions don't get any easier than this. Now you can move up to Fios TV, internet, and phone for just $99.99 a month for a year with no term contract required.
We have more choices, so many more high-def channels. With Fios, I really feel like we're getting a great deal.
Call now and you'll get a special bonus, $100 back. But this is a limited time offer, so don't wait.
Suddenly, high-definition TV was really high definition. The colors, the clarity. I didn't have that before.
Fios is a 100% fiber optic network with HD picture quality rated #1 by ChangeWave Research, plus the fastest internet in the U.S.
Switching to Fios was the best thing we've done in a long time, and my wife reminds me of that often.
Get Fios TV, internet, and phone for this great price, plus $100 back. Call 1-866-699-FIOS. That's 1-866-699-3467. Fios, a network ahead.
And welcome back. It's the economy stupid was the mantra of the Bill Clinton campaign for president. But as Barack Obama's team tries to prepare for their next presidential campaign, their creed has become it's unemployment stupid. Joining us to discuss jobs, small business incentives, and the impact of a possible government shutdown, it's Ladies Week for the Reporter Roundtable. Joining us, Jennifer Anise-Connor from the Washington Business Journal and Bloomberg's Kate Anderson-Brower, who was in the room Thursday when the president issued a challenge to his new Jobs Council. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Kate, the message from the president to the Jobs Council, now led by Jeffrey Immelt of GE, was, I'm trying to come up with all these ideas to create new jobs. I need you guys to do the same. What did he ask of them?
Right. He said that he wants concrete deliverables here. He said he's had plenty of meetings talking about jobs in the economy. He wants them to go out, have meetings, and discuss ways to stimulate the economy. They talked about research and development. He also heard from a lot of the CEOs about problems that they're seeing. For instance, the American Express CEO, Ken Chenault, said that he's seeing that a lot of people aren't using their credit cards as often. And that's a big concern. Because of uncertainty in the economy, people are holding back. And so the president, says he understands that concern, and he wants to go ahead and give people that confidence to go out.
Did he whip out his American Express and buy his platinum gold? What does the president have? And you went to Cleveland this week, where he met with small business leaders, promising to put a focus on small business. If it's not going to be a jobless recovery, a lot of those jobs are going to have to come from small businesses. What was his message there?
Well, it was interesting. It was his 12th trip to Ohio since becoming president. Obviously.
No surprise there, given the electoral votes.
Right. And one analyst I spoke to said that Ohio is the new Michigan because they've lost so many jobs. They have a 9.6% unemployment rate compared to a 9% unemployment rate nationally. His message was, I'm here to listen to your problems. A lot of what he heard, because I was in some of those meetings where he was talking to the small business leaders, was, problems with access to capital to grow. Also problems with education, finding workers that are skilled to do these jobs. So it was certainly an interesting back and forth. He was really there to listen. It was different breakout sessions with different cabinet officials, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner among them. But really his message is that he wants states to work together. In fact, he talked about forming another Silicon Valley and having governors work together across borders to find areas where states can, create and innovate new products.
Jennifer, you heard it here today, and you've been hearing it all along. There's real concern in the business community in Washington about the possibility of a government shutdown, and even the stopgap measure to get a temporary funding bill, there's an impasse over right now. So it's unlikely, I still think, but it's a very real possibility. What do you see as the impact for this region?
Well, there's a couple of regions that are really going to be impacted by it. And what's interesting is that we're different than a lot of other cities around the country because the federal government is right here. So if this shutdown happens, it's not just shutting down the contractors and the people associated with the federal government. It's the restaurants. It's the hotels. It's the Smithsonian. Tourism is a big business here.
If the parks close down, all of that money dries up. And we saw the impact last time when that did happen, almost a month of government shutdown.
Right, and if it's a couple days, they were saying that, okay, we can move around. When tourists come to town, they can go to the Washington Monument a different day. But if it's a month, that's whole trips that get messed up, and a lot of the main attractions here, obviously, are federally based.
Now, Kate, the White House continuing to say that they hope to reach some kind of an agreement. What are you hearing behind closed doors?
Well, they've been saying, Press Secretary Jay Carney has said, look, this could have an impact on Social Security checks getting to people. There's been discussion about, air traffic controllers, food inspectors. The White House has been very quiet on this. They say they're hopeful that there can be some kind of resolution. They have contingency plans in place through the Office of Management and Budget, but they're not releasing the specifics that would entail how many people can show up if there is a shutdown and things like that. So they say that they're prepared, but I think the goal this next week is to try to get Democrats and Republicans to come to some kind of understanding. So we'll see.
The goal, perhaps not the reality, but they need to do something. And it does sound like there's not an appetite on either side for a shutdown. On the other hand, there's not an appetite on either side to budge on their demands.
No, Speaker Boehner, actually, his spokesman I spoke with earlier, and he said that they do not want to pass a continuing resolution without any cuts. So they're demanding that there are cuts in this, and it's unclear what kind of appetite there is for that among Democrats.
And then just quickly, Jennifer, huge surprise over the Boeing award, and yet your newspaper, one of your writers said, don't pop the champagne just yet, Boeing. Too late for that. They did last night. They were shocked. They did not expect to get this award. EADS did. EADS had a press conference all lined up. Boeing planned on saying nothing, putting out a paper statement. Everyone had to scramble. What do you see coming out of this award?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of things that can still happen. And my colleague Jill Toro, who covers this very closely, she was the one who noted, don't pop the champagne cork just yet, because this has changed a couple times in the last, 10 years? And there's likelihood it could possibly change again.
And yet the Pentagon saying they can't wait, they need the tankers to get started. So even if there is an appeal, our executive producer did the math, the youngest of the tankers now out there would qualify for AARP membership in 3 years. So the Pentagon saying they're not going to wait this time for an appeal. They've got to go ahead and start building. So they may start. We'll see if the taxpayers split the bill if the decision gets overturned. So.
Otherwise, some planes will get some AARP cards. So,
and there's something in that in the economy somewhere. Perhaps not what anyone wanted, though. Okay, ladies, thanks so much for joining us. And stay with us. We'll explain the number of the week when we come back. It's 6.7 million.
Cox Communications, your friend in the digital age.
America's beverage companies are working together to put more information right up front, adding new calorie labels to every single can, bottle, and pack they produce, so you can make the choice that's right for you.
"40 years ago, he wasn't worried about retirement. He'd yet to hear of mutual funds, IRAs, or annuities. Back then, he had something more important to do. He wasn't focused on his future. But fortunately, somebody else was. At USAA, we provide retirement solutions for our military, veterans, and their families. From investments to life insurance to healthcare options. Learn more with our free USAA Retirement Guide. Call 877-242-USAA.
It's not easy managing the day and making ends meet, especially with his appetite. Now I read that using my debit card, which is so convenient, could become restricted and cost more because Congress just gave giant retailers a $12 billion payday. I wonder who's left holding the bag.
I'm okay.
Right now, I don't need less convenience or higher costs.
Paper towels?
Read for yourself about Congress's new debit card rule that could hit you in the pocketbook.
Hey, I just went to Jiffy Lube for the first time.
Nice.
Oh, it's more than nice. They keep my car on the road and out of the repair shop. Sure, they've got the Jiffy Lube signature service oil change, but they offer more too. Like radiator services, tire rotation, wiper blade replacement, all done fast and without an appointment. You're kidding. I'm not. Yeah, they know what I'm talking about. Woo, Jiffy Lube. Keep my ride alive.
For great deals and low-rate financing on a huge selection of new and used vehicles, visit Orsman Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Alexandria or log on to orsmanva.com.
Welcome back. Our number for this week, 6.7, but we're talking $6.7 million. Forbes reports that's how much the two sides battling over the tanker contract spent on print advertising alone. Boeing spent $5 million, EADS spent $1.7 million, and those figures don't include the tens of millions of dollars spent by both sides on lobbying, plus all those radio ads you probably heard as both sides battled it out. Well, that's all for us this week. We hope to have you here next week for Washington Business Report. And as always, you can go to our website, tbd.com, search Washington Business Report to watch the show. Thanks for joining us.
Ever had to face a struggle alone and wish...
Washington Business Report with ABC7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
And welcome. Thanks for joining us. There were two big budget battles taking place in Washington this week. Both will have major impact on the Washington region. The president laid out his budget for 2012, but first, Congress is dealing with what they put off last year, the annual spending bill that keeps the government funded. Businesses say they want a federal budget that offers more tax cuts for growth, but also gets serious about reducing the deficit. A growing number of critics say both parties are avoiding the big issue, entitlements. So there's a new spotlight now on Virginia Senator Mark Warner. He's teamed up with Republican Saxby Chambliss to form a growing bipartisan group that says it's time to take on the big ticket items. So this week I went to Capitol Hill to talk to Senator Warner.
made a good first step, but we're going to need to go farther. We're going to need to realize that we can't just have this debate about our deficit and our long-term national debt if we just look at the 12% of the budget that is domestic discretionary spending. We're going to have to look at defense. We're going to have to look at the entitlement programs. We're going to have to look at how we spend money in terms of tax expenditures, which is just another way of spending. And one of the things that I've been proud to do is work with Senator Saxby Chambliss, a Republican senator from Georgia, and we're saying, let's take the President's Deficit Commission, which had something in it that everybody hated, but put us on a path back to sustainability, and say, let's use the work of that group that had bipartisan support as a starting point to really do a long-term structural rebalancing of our balance sheet. We've got to do it on both the spending side and the revenue side, and I think the Deficit Commission is where I hope we'll end up as a broader discussion. We didn't get into this problem overnight. We're not going to dig out in a single year.
You are starting to get a lot of attention on the national stage, a lot of people singling you out for these efforts. Tell us a little bit about where you see hope and where you think that it's going to be the toughest. Who else on the Republican side besides Saxby Chambliss?
We've expanded our group to include those senators, Senator Coburn, Senator Crapos, Senator Durbin, Senator Conrad, and there's about another 20 plus other senators, Democrats and Republicans, who are saying, hey, if we all link together and there's enough here that everybody likes and dislikes, I think that people will be willing to bite this off. The question about deficit reduction is not if we're going to do it. You know, at some point, the markets will force us to do it. So let's do it in a rational way. Let's do it in a way that we're not forced into a debt crisis, a sovereign debt crisis, the way we've seen countries in Europe. And I think the recognition that we're all going to have skin in the game. I spent 20 years in business. I can read a balance sheet. The balance sheet of this country right now needs to be structurally fixed.
Disappointed that in the president's budget that he didn't tackle some of the
president started on moving the area around cuts. I mean, I think there'll be some back and forth, particularly with the House Republicans over the next coming weeks. But even with what the president has done in this first year, that doesn't really get us to where we need to be around entitlements, around defense, around tax expenditures. I mean, I know our viewers here are pretty sophisticated, but I'm not sure everybody realizes that we collect $1 trillion a year in income taxes. We actually spend $1.2 trillion a year in income tax expenditures, tax loopholes. So bringing down some of these tax loopholes will actually allow us to lower rates, allow American business to be more competitive, and at the same time, combined with the spending cuts, put us on a sustainable path.
Because of your background in business, because of who you represent, you talk to Virginia business leaders quite a bit. What are you hearing from them? What are they asking you to prioritize when it comes to the tax rate?
Well, I think they realize, particularly our corporate tax rates are too high compared to the rest of the world. The situation, though, is nobody really pays the documented rate. Particularly larger companies can find ways that they actually pay, in the high teens as opposed to the 35% posted rate. So we're going to need everybody in business to kind of give a little to get our rates lower to about an average of about 25%, number one. Number two, we can't tax our way or even simply cut spending enough to really solve this problem entirely. We've still got to have a sophisticated plan to grow our economy. The Washington region, whether it's life sciences in Maryland, whether it's IT in Northern Virginia, we are really a growing innovation hub. So we've got to make sure that while we cut back, and the federal government has a role in this in terms of sparking basic research and continuing to make sure that we can grow the economy. It's really three legs of a stool. We've got to cut spending, we've got to reform our tax code, but we've got to have a growth plan in terms of our overall economy that will keep us able to be competitive with the rest of the world. And I think a lot of business leaders in this community, understand that better than most.
Talk to me about targeted tax cuts. Virginia's also become home to boom in technology companies. We're seeing biotechnology and IT growing. Where do you stand on targeted tax cuts? Where do you think those would best be used?
I think that what we still need is we need to make sure that we continue to incent capital formation. So I believe personally, we still need to make sure that particularly longer-term capital formation around research and development is tax advantaged. We need to make sure that research and development continues to be a part. We're not going to compete on the basis of our lowest wage rate. We've got to be smarter. We've got to be more around innovation and technology, and that's also not just in kind of life sciences.
Across the board in all industry?
I think not just in life sciences, not just in IT, where Maryland and Virginia have benefited, but we have to recognize we have to make stuff again in this country. We've got to have an advanced manufacturing sector. There's a lot of lessons we can learn from Germany, which actually has higher taxes, more regulations, more unions, yet they've come through the recession by having advanced manufacturing that is frankly starting to top some of ours, and we need to be competitive in that space as well.
Just lastly, talk to me about the things that you felt like made you successful in the business world that you wish translated more on Capitol Hill. What are some things that they could learn from the business world in terms of legislation and how to do things better?
First thing, when I go out and talk to groups, I'd say to anyone, the first criteria you ought to look at when you're hiring somebody for elective office, particularly as a legislator, ask them if they can read a balance sheet. You know, that doesn't come with a partisan affiliation. You got to understand that what you bring in versus what you spend at some point has to balance. And I think you also have to realize that you've got to have a sense that there's competition, but our competition is not Republicans versus Democrats, quite honestly. It's really our country versus other countries around the world. I mean, the thing in business was, if you only criticized your competition, you'd never end up with a successful product. Too many people in politics spend all their time criticizing the other side rather than putting out a good product themselves. And I think, to my mindset, one of the reasons why I've always harped on bipartisanship is because it would be like in my company, if I said, I'm only going to take ideas from half my employees and not take ideas from the other half. Neither side has got a monopoly on all the good ideas. And at the end of the day, people hire us to get things done, and we ought to be measured by what we get done, not simply by who scores the most political points.
And we thank Senator Warner for that. Up next, proposed cuts to the federal budget would have a major impact on jobs and businesses in the Washington region. That's next with our all-star reporter roundtable. Stay with us.
Not all steel is created equal. Not all manufacturing processes are created equal. Not all engineering standards are created equal. Which is why not all luxury vehicles are created equal. The hard way means never taking shortcuts. The hard way is how Lexus inspires absolute confidence. This is the pursuit of perfection. See what it takes at Lexus.com the hard way.
When you really need to know, count on ABC7's Perfect Storm Team.
America's beverage companies are working together to put more information right up front, adding new calorie labels to every single can, bottle, and pack they produce, so you can make the choice that's right for you.
The deeper you go, the more good things you learn about oil and natural gas, an industry that supports 9.2 million American jobs, with 20% new jobs in natural gas alone since 2006. And from the energy and manufacturing plants to the fertilizer on the farm to the building blocks for tomorrow's medicines, we're fueling all kinds of jobs. So the next time we discover more oil and natural gas together underground, think of all the good that means above ground. Log on to learn more.
Join Reston Hospital Center and the Washington Wizards Saturday, February 26th at the Verizon Center for a night of flight in celebration of women's heart health. Come for our pregame health event and a dance performance by Joy of Motion. For tickets, visit RestonHospital.com.
If you need a mattress, why go to a furniture store? Go to the professionals. Sleepy's, the mattress professionals.
All this week, it's GMA's Countdown to Oscar. See the stars as you've never seen, the clothes and parties, and Robin's in LA with the hot Oscar hosts. The award for Best Oscar Countdown Week ever goes to Good Morning America, this week on ABC.
There were two different battles of the budget on Capitol Hill this week. Here to talk about both, our roundtable. Kate Anderson-Brower covers business news in the White House for Bloomberg. Doug Freeling is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Business Journal. And Dr. Peter Morici teaches economics at the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland, formerly serving as chief economist at the U.S. International Trade Commission. Welcome, panelists. So it gets a little confusing, and we're not going to try and split hairs on this, but basically you have the battle brewing over the so-called CR, continuing resolution. They've got to fund the government for the rest of this year because they put that battle off last year and didn't do it. But then we've got the bigger issue of the president's budget and the even bigger issue, as Senator Warner was talking about, entitlements. But let's first talk about federal jobs, because we heard from Speaker of the House John Boehner this week, and he refused to shed any tears for federal workers who stand to lose their jobs as a result of budget cutting. Speaker Boehner said, if some federal workers go by the wayside, so be it. And here's what he had to say.
Listen, I don't want anyone to lose their job, whether they're a federal employee or not. But come on, we're broke. We've got to make tough decisions, and the American people sent their representatives here to Washington to make tough decisions on their behalf. And we know that we can't continue to spend 40 cents, or we can't continue to borrow 40 cents for every dollar the federal government spends.
So, Doug, not too sympathetic about federal workers, and Republicans have made it clear they wouldn't mind if the federal workforce got cut. What does that mean for the Washington region?
Well, the federal government represents about a third of the Washington region's economy, so it's not a non-event, but these things happen over time. They happen over years. It doesn't happen quickly. The impact will be felt over many years. It won't be immediate. We'll pull through.
Kate, talk to us about Republicans you've been covering. They're saying that they're going to be serious and honor what they promised these Tea Party freshmen, cutting the deficit. Are they serious?
Well, Senator McConnell has come out and said that the president really was punting by not exactly tackling Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, which he says make up the bulk of the deficit and long-term deficit. And of course, President Obama's perspective is that they've made cuts in areas that he cares a lot about, like community block grants, homelessness, heating for the poor. So it's going to be a tough fight ahead for the 2012 budget, for sure.
And Peter Morici, the new White House spokesman, Jay Carney, said, well, look, right now the president is the only one that has a real budget on the table that's laid out specific cuts. Republicans haven't laid out their budget yet. He's the only one that gets them to deficit reduction, but you say all of them are just punting.
Oh, that's absolutely disingenuous. The president's idea of deficit reduction is to decrease spending over 10 years by $1 trillion, increase it by $1 trillion in another place, and then lay on taxes of $2 trillion. 92% of the president's deficit reduction is increased taxes. If this president is going to match the Republicans dollar for dollar, he's really out of his league.
Well, you say, let's get serious about entitlement reform. We heard from Senator Warner. It's an impressive bipartisan coalition, but they're not getting into specifics. They're saying let's put off the tough stuff. You have some specific proposals.
Absolutely. Warner, as governor of Virginia, was hardly anyone to get into entitlements. Let's be clear. He liked to tax, not spend. But there are things that we could do right now. We could raise the retirement age to 70 for everybody under 55 right now. With regard to Medicaid and Medicare, unless we're willing to see people fall off the rolls, people not have health care that need it, maybe folks that make less than $50,000 a year, we're going to have to pay less for health care. Bottom line, we're going to have to pay the same kind of drug prices the Europeans do. We're going to have to pay less for hospital administration. We're going to have to tighten up the system. That's something neither Republicans nor Democrats are willing to do.
Okay. I'll let Senator Warner speak for himself when he comes on the show next. So he'll say he grew the economy in Virginia. But let's talk about something that is important to the Washington business region. Many Democrats who want to balance the budget are taking a hard look at tax breaks, call them loopholes, subsidies, or incentives. There are plenty out there designed to benefit business and help grow the economy. Well, we talked to Congressman Jim Moran this week at his Capitol Hill office, and he was pretty blunt about what he thinks it's time to take away: billions of dollars in tax incentives for big oil.
The subsidies we give the oil and gas industry are obscene. And the reason they're able to continue is that the American people are not aware of it. I'm convinced that's the case. I could mention any number of other subsidies. We paid $20 billion to international agribusiness firms not to grow in this country. It used to be to help out the family farmer. There aren't very many family farms, and they get very little of the subsidy. So we pay out $20 billion to international agribusiness concerns. Same thing with oil and gas companies. The small oil and gas driller would be exempt from any legislation that we would apply to try to end those subsidies. It's the 5 major oil companies who alone make $1 trillion over a decade's time, who don't need those subsidies. And in fact, the CEO of Shell acknowledged if oil and gas were at $20 or $30 a barrel, that would be helpful. We don't need these subsidies when oil and gas is over $50 a barrel, and it's close to $90 a barrel now. But again, they've got high-priced lobbyists and a lack of information on the part of the public, and so we will continue to cut those programs that are applied against the least influential people in the legislative process, the poor, the lower middle class, the working class. Those are the ones who don't have high-priced lobbyists up here, and so they're the ones who will take the brunt of fiscal, the budget reduction.
Tax is always a top priority, but another budget item that's been a top priority for the Greater Washington Board of Trade and businesses throughout the region, beefing up and bettering Metro. But this week, House Republicans stripped $150 million in funding intended for improving Metro safety and infrastructure and managed to kill an amendment from Congressman Jerry Connolly of Virginia to restore it. Jim Moran says, get ready for more cuts in this House.
The continuing resolution just included the elimination of the $150 million for Washington's metro system, but that's the House side. I don't think that the Senate is going to support that. The House is going to come forward, at least for the next 2 years, with some fairly radical ideas. Much of it is because many of the new members don't know enough to know what they don't know. They don't know how important it is to have public transit. Many of them represent rural areas. And so it's easy for them to eliminate Metro funding. They've never ridden on Metro. They also eliminated new public transit starts. So as long as this is the majority, it's going to be very hard to make any progress. But I do think we'll be able to stop the most draconian cuts over in the Senate side. I'm hoping, and I don't think the president would sign legislation that would eliminate public transit.
Doug Freeling, you know how important the issue of Metro is to the Washington business community. They say they want it, they need it for their businesses. What's taking shape here on Capitol Hill?
This is a really hard one. We spent so many years trying to get this money, and all 3 jurisdictions had to approve their matching part of it, and the money is there. Metro needs the money. We know they need the money. The business community strongly supports both the federal and the local matches. My bet is it gets restored.
Gets restored. Peter Morici, what's your betting on whether oil and gas gets their tax cut eliminated?
Well, Jim's going to have to put something else on the table. The Democrats are all for cutting oil and gas because the Republican executives that work there. However, what about the $2 trillion they gave to Wall Street and the fact that hedge fund traders, hold on, pay only capital gains tax on their incomes, not income tax like the rest of us? If he wants to do something about oil and gas and get the Republicans to come on side, he's going to have to do something about the sweetheart breaks that he provides his traders on Wall Street that finance Democratic political campaigns.
But setting aside all that, come on, don't you think, too, that this is about voters who are looking at places like Exxon and saying they're making so much money, they don't need this big of a tax subsidy for big oil?
That's fine. You asked me if he could get it. If he wants to get it, he's going to have to put something on the table that's near and dear to the Democrats as well. But they keep sheltering Wall Street from any kind of accountability or taxation. As a consequence, I don't think this is going very far.
Peter Morici, we're going to have more to talk about with all of our panel coming up. Take a break and stay with us for the next segment on Washington Business Report.
Ever had to face a struggle alone and wished you had backup? Well, now, imagine the stakes are as high as your hard-earned retirement and health benefits. It's Politics 101 that the people in that building respect the strength of groups of people more than individuals. Since 1921, NARF has represented active and retired federal employees on Capitol Hill, fighting for your benefits. Help us keep an eye on Capitol Hill. Federal employees and retirees, join NARF now.
I put off replacing my old, inefficient windows for years. It can be tricky, hiring contractors, choosing the best windows, and getting them properly installed. I wanted the job done fast, and I wanted it done right. So I called these guys, the experts at Renewal by Andersen. They have the full package, a legendary quality product installed by experts with a great warranty. Best of all for me, they can be in and out in less than 1 day.
It's the President's Day sale going on right now. Save $200 per window and take advantage of no payments and 0% interest for 12 full months. Make an appointment today.
I heard that over 98% of Renewal by Andersen customers are happy with the experience. And happy's good. Renewal by Andersen. You'll love your new windows.
7 years ago, I had this idea to make baby food the way moms would. Happy Baby strives to make the best organic baby food. In a business like ours, personal connections are so important. We use our American Express Open Gold Card to further those connections. Last year, we took dozens of trips using membership rewards points to meet with the farmers that grow our sweet potatoes and merchants that sell our product. We've gone from being in 5 stores to 7,500. Booming is using points to make connections that grow your business.
Washington National Opera presents Madama Butterfly, a tale of love, honor, and sacrifice. February 26th through March 19th at the Kennedy Center Opera House. You can win 4 box seat tickets. Log on to contest.tbd.com/opera and enter today.
Hosts James Franco and Anne Hathaway are undergoing intensive training to enhance their agility, strength, and speed.
New record! Yes! All right!
Oscar, live next Sunday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC.
And welcome back. President Obama took a trip Thursday for dinner with a special group of business executives, people who took their bright ideas hatched in dorm rooms and garages and turned into tech titans. The president dined in Silicon Valley with the likes of Google CEO Eric Schmidt, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, and Apple CEO Steve Jobs. On the agenda, several priorities the president would like to advance: education, innovation, and green technology among them. And we're joined once again by our roundtable. Kate, congratulations. You broke the news about this big meeting, and a lot of people were talking about it. What came out of it?
Well, it's really hard to overstate how big a push the White House is making now on job creation. And the president went out to Silicon Valley, met with executives, as you said, Mark Zuckerberg among them, who's just 26 years old, also with executives from Twitter and Yahoo, to make the case that technology is really the way forward to get the economy back on track. One analyst I spoke with said that Silicon Valley can be the quarterback for the recovery. And also I spoke with Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, who himself was a venture capitalist, who said that if we don't pay attention to innovation in the Valley, we're in big trouble. So it's hard to overstate it. In the State of the Union address, the president said, he compared Facebook and Google to the Wright brothers and Thomas Edison. So these are areas where he sees a real opportunity for some kind of way forward to get this 9% unemployment rate down.
So Doug, Senator Warner, a good example, started Nextel, made a fortune in Virginia. What's at stake in the Washington region for any incentives for the tech industry?
Well, right now we have a burgeoning tech in Maryland and Virginia and DC as well. Not since the dot-com boom has it been this strong. Tons of entrepreneurs out there, so they're watching this very closely. They are all on board. They want as much R&D credits and tax breaks as they can get.
Peter?
Well, it's great to talk about helping Apple develop another phone, but the question is, what is the president going to do to get that iPhone made in the United States as opposed to China? So much of the problem that we have in the tech sector has to do with the incentives and unfair practices that China puts in place that the president has acknowledged but done very little about. By the way, George Bush did less. As a consequence, we're not going to get those manufacturing jobs that Senator Warner talked about earlier in the show unless we do something about China, because they are requiring, for example, American companies do their R&D there, manufacture there, and so forth, to sell there. We've lost the windmill industry that way.
And I'll have you one fun fact for Peter Morisi, since he touched on this last segment. According to Kate, the high-tech industry donated $8.5 million to Barack Obama's presidential campaign, $1.5 million to John McCain. Usually it's the other way around in business and industry, but for this one, they got the win. Okay, well, we've got one more item of business coming up. Our number of the week, it's 41. We'll tell you all about it right after the break.
Saturday, February 26th, attend the bank-ordered River Liquidation Sale and get a pristine 12-plus acre River Access home site. Foreclosure priced at just $79.9. That's right, only $79.9 for 12-plus acres with River Access. Located just minutes to the D.C. Beltway with completed amenities and panoramic 3-state views. These stunning River Access home sites are an incredible bargain and will sell quickly. Call 877-77-RIVER, 877-77-RIVER, or visit riverliquidation.com.
Dulles Motor Cars, voted #1 auto dealer in Loudoun County.
If you thought moments like these only happened in the movies, take your star turn in a Mercedes-Benz S-Class and watch the stars arrive with Mercedes-Benz.
America's beverage companies are working together to put more information right up front, adding new calorie labels to every single can, bottle, and pack they produce, so you can make the choice that's right for you.
When Sean was looking at MBA programs, he wanted a curriculum designed to meet market needs, with faculty who brought real-world perspective on where the business world was headed, and the practical experience to help him make an impact.
My name is Sean Blankenship. I'm making the electric car more accessible, and I am a Phoenix.
Imagine what a business degree can do for you, with 4 Northern Virginia locations, one's closer than you think.
There's no place like Hollywood. This is where you're in the spotlight. You're the star. A place where the action never stops and the night is always young. Enjoy all your favorite table games like blackjack, craps, and roulette. Or hit it big in our brand new 27-table poker room. Only at Hollywood Casino. The name says it all.
And it's time to explain this week's number of the week, 41. That's where the Washington area landed on U-Haul's list of America's top 50 destination cities for people making a move. U-Haul generates the annual list by comparing the number of one-way rentals to cities around the country. Houston and Orlando placed first and second. Baltimore was 33rd, but 41st was a big improvement. Last year, D.C. didn't make it on the list. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next Sunday on Washington Business Report.
Washington Business Report with ABC7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
And thanks for joining us. We're used to starting this program with things we know, not what we don't. But it's too soon to predict the economic impact of this week's big story, the uprising in Egypt. The crisis in Cairo casts a shadow across much of our economy. The U.S. depends on Egypt to keep oil flowing to the U.S. through the Suez Canal and through the Suez Mediterranean pipeline. And Egypt is a major customer for the U.S. defense industry. Even Washington Lee High School in Arlington felt the impact. Students in an AP class are taught Arabic by an Egyptian teacher based in Cairo. Once they lost internet service due to the uprising, they lost their online instructor. The school has hired a local teacher to fill in the interim. But while the world watches Egypt, here at home, the business world also had its eye on new job numbers. And like all things in this recovery, the good is mixed with the not totally good enough yet. On Friday, new numbers showed January unemployment claims are falling. Analysts had expected to see a slight rise, but now the unemployment rate is down from 9.4% to an even 9%. But the number of new jobs created was the fewest in 4 months, only 36,000. Still, overall, analysts say there is reason for optimism. It's here on the factory line where we might finally see some improvement on the jobs front in 2011. After manufacturing jobs saw the steepest cuts during the recession, experts say new productivity numbers indicate efficiency may be maxing out. Now employers may have to hire more workers to expand output and meet demand. Worker productivity rose last year at the fastest rate in 8 years. Other encouraging news, factory orders in December were up, and service firms saw their 14th straight month of growth. There was even surprisingly strong news on the retail front, sales up despite January snowstorms. And best of all for the Washington area, the region finishing first in the country when it comes to job growth in 2010. Dallas, Fort Worth, and Boston number 2 and 3. All three cities benefited from gains in technology and biomedical jobs, but it was increased federal government hiring that helped push Washington to #1. And let's take a break from the numbers to get some perspective from an experienced hand in the Washington employment market. John Tidings is among the founders of Human Capital Advisors, a firm that specializes in recruiting along with executive and organizational development. Before Human Capital Advisors, John was president of the Greater Washington Board of Trade, executive director for 32 years. He also founded Leadership Washington. John Tidings, welcome. Did I get the title right? Executive Director for 32 years.
President. President.
I know, but you know what? We know the truth. The Executive Director does all the work.
Oh.
So you know this market well. Tell us, what are you hearing from your clients today about the job outlook in this region?
Well, we're hearing frankly, some good news. As you referenced, we specialize in just a limited number of areas. And what we're finding is that people are talking in a much more positive way today. And let me put some perspective to that. Recently, you saw numbers that said in this region, we added 56,000 jobs, 58,000 jobs in this marketplace. The work that we do, we have employers who are talking to us now, not as our work is an expense, but it's an investment in the types of things they want to do to grow their people, to see their people much more productive. And for us, that's a great and positive sign. And my compliments to you for picking a small business, because if you believe the fact that we are sort of where the rubber meets the road, the things that we do day in and day out, we're in direct contact with chief executives, board chairs, CFOs, and the like. And the attitude and the feeling is pretty positive.
And yet we're still seeing pockets here in the district. Ward 8, unemployment near 30%. This week, the front page of the Washington Post, it was Dateline Fresno, but it said lots of jobs, not the right workers to fill them. What are people looking for in this region? Where are some of the places where the jobs are?
Well, you've got two forces probably operating in this economy right now. Sort of the traditional jobs that fall in areas like hospitality, real estate, financial services, healthcare. And then you have what's taken place over the last 15 years, the new economy, where people are looking for skills in computer sciences, information technology, software development, and the like. The question will be when those two trails may ultimately converge. And for the near term, I don't see that occurring, but I do see enough growth in both those streams to really help the long-term growth, stability of the employment in this marketplace.
And looking at the different sectors in the Washington market, which one pleasantly surprised you? Which one has seen more growth than you expected after the session?
Well, you hit on a key thing about this market. It's diversified. This is not a marketplace where it's a single manufacturer, and if it goes down, we go down. It's not a single attraction. If it goes down, we go down. It's a very diverse market. And I think when you take a look at two things that strike me. One is not everyone here works for government.
You told me that when you tell people two-thirds of the paychecks in this region are not federal government jobs, you say people are surprised by that.
People are surprised here, and they're surprised around the world when you talk about it.
They think it's a one-industry town.
They think it's a one-industry town, but yet, as I say, it's got those multiple sectors. And I think we at Human Capital Advisors look at it as kind of like an engine. Certain cylinders at certain times are stronger than others, and that's what we've seen so far. What it means for us is the dip is narrow, not as deep. It'll come back faster. You have to be optimistic about this market.
Now, what are you advising your clients? We've seen productivity maxing out, but wages are remaining suppressed. You all advise your clients on benefits, on wages. What are you telling them? Are they going to have to raise wages at some point?
Well, I think when you take a look at the numbers, people are talking in the numbers of roughly 3% or so in terms of salary pools. The other thing we're finding in our conversations is
what does that mean, though? 3% increase in wages, or 3% where?
There'll be more like an average of 3%.
Increase in wages.
Increase in wages. At the same time, what we're also finding is that you see companies are starting to look back over the last couple of years, the old do more with less. They're also looking at different kinds of ways to evaluate your contribution to the organization. You've got this sort of qualitative stuff, sales and so forth. It's the stuff now that people are saying,
Quality over quantity.
Quality over
John
quantity.
Tidings, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Well, before we go to break, let's take a look at how the new unemployment numbers break down for the Washington region. Our area remains the lowest in the country for overall unemployment, with the regional rate falling to 5.7% in December. That's down from 6% in November. In the region, the district continues to see the highest unemployment numbers. It's improving, 9.2% in December, down from 10.2%. Virginia's unemployment rate is 6.4%. That's down from 6.6%. And Maryland is at 7.5%. That's down from 7.7%. Well, coming up, we're going to take a look at BizNow, a company growing by leaps and bounds. And in our roundtable, a CEO in hot water, saying he'd rather do business in states which vote Republican. Stay with us. Washington Business Report continues after the break.
Washington Business Report is brought to you by GE. Imagination at work.
Before he changed the world,
Tear down this wall.
or led a nation,
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
or governed a state,
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
he inspired our company with his optimism, his belief in innovation, and his entrepreneurial spirit.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Cruise for Cash scratch-off. So what can I win?
Sam?
You can win up to $50,000.
Or instantly win a fabulous cruise vacation. Yes, you and a guest could fly first class to Florida and stay in a deluxe hotel before departing on a Royal Caribbean cruise vacation with spending money and onboard credit.
I'll take it. And the milk.
Play Cruise for Cash from the Maryland Lottery. With fabulous cruise vacations we can't wait to give away.
Geico. Saving people money on more than just car insurance.
The DC Capital Stars Talent Competition is back, and we want your vote.
See DC's most talented teams compete for a chance to win a college scholarship. Log on to dccap.org now and check out the auditions. Then click and pick your favorites in vocal, instrumental, and dance. The top 10 finalists will compete live at this year's Night of DC Capital Stars, March 28th at the Kennedy Center.
Go to dccap.org and vote now. DC Cap, changing lives by giving every child a chance at a college education.
Doug Hill, Bob Ryan, when you really need to know. Count on ABC7's Perfect Storm Team, always on your side.
One local online company where business is booming is BizNow Media. Many people just assume the growing company's name is an abbreviation for Business Now. But actually, it's the name of the man who created the media outlet, Mark Biznow, and two of his employees. Son Elliot is a company co-founder, and Kellogg MBA grad wife Margot publishes Scene BizNow. But the company now has a growing number of employees nationwide, with 17 newsletters going out in 10 different cities. Mark Biznow, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Well, so I've known you for a long time, and I knew you back in the days. You've had multiple careers on the Hill and elsewhere, and you were at MicroStrategy, but I only just learned that you managed to lose $100 million.
You had to remind me. Yeah,
in
it's
one
ancient
day
history.
when that internet bubble burst. But then it was time to recreate yourself, and you started advising other people on business and doing business radio, and started on this newsletter. Describe the newsletter and why you thought that was the way to go.
Well, I'm hoping to get that $100 million back somehow. We are an all-electronic publisher of fun local business news. I mean, it's very serious information, but we try to have a light touch and make it readable.
I like the way that you describe it online. You say, we're the people magazine for the professional set.
Exactly. And our motto is almost never boring. We put that almost in parentheses. It's for all the lawyers in Washington.
You know, and we're talking about things that even the people in the industry will admit. Sometimes when you're talking about the numbers for commercial real estate, your eyes can glaze over, even if you're in the business. So you show the people, you talk to the people, you
We
get out
actually
there.
want to have fun doing the reporting and writing, so we figure, you know, we're a guinea pig. If we're not having fun, our readers won't have fun, and we want everybody to make this the one thing that when it pops up in the middle of a busy day on their screen, they make time for it. They say, oh boy, I wondered if it was ever going to show up.
I have to admit, my picture was once in BizNow Scene, which is your newsletter that covers all the scene, the charity and all the other important events. And it was like I suddenly existed in Washington. I heard from a lot of different friends. What are your most popular publications?
Well, we now have 18 different newsletters, most of which we put out every day. It's like Groundhog Day. We scramble around and then we drive ourselves crazy putting these all out, and it all starts again the next day.
You've grown since the introduction. I said you had 17, so you're up to 18.
Oh, yeah. And we're in 11 different markets, and we're, among other things, the largest commercial real estate publication in the country by far, but we also
Based on subscribers.
Yeah, the number of people actually get our publication.
But it's free.
It's free. All we need is your email, and we make our money, by the way, through advertising and events. We put on ginormous events around the country.
And that's what I wanted to get to. I keep getting emails about events that are selling out and growing and have to be moved to different locations. Tell me about the events.
You get too many emails telling you that?
No, I read the emails. Believe me, there's filters they could go to.
We hold events in Boston recently. We had 1,000 people, and these are people who pay executives in commercial real estate. Last week, I was in Houston, New York, Dallas, as well as Rockville, each of which featured a giant event of a different kind.
So you take different subjects and different sectors,
yes,
and you bring some of the best in the business world to talk about it. And then you have events that are just called Schmoozerama.
Yeah, no bones about that. Pure networking, no programming in that case. We've got another one coming up on Wednesday night at the National Building Museum. We'll have over 1,000 people, and featuring 25 of the best restaurants as well. But mainly it's networking, so you got to bring your business cards.
Speaking of networking, your co-founder, Elliot Biznow, has been profiled in the Washington Post. I've met him. He networks with the best of them, having President Clinton and others. He's brought together young entrepreneurs.
Well, he's just a past president, so yeah, it's not a big deal.
He brings together John Legend and President Clinton.
It's pretty amazing, and I learn from my son every day.
And he's learning from entrepreneurs from around the country.
He collects, he's got his own business now. It's called Summit Series, summitseries.com. It's based in South Beach because they can kind of live anywhere in this virtual world of young people. And they put together the top young entrepreneurs in the world at big conferences. They also include now top young Hollywood celebrities, investment bankers, and music people.
Very exciting. All the BizNow business
You're
is
young
growing.
enough for it. I'm not.
I don't know about that. Mark BizNow, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Well, speaking of growing, green construction is hot in the Washington region, and now the University of the District of Columbia plans to use it to save money in operations at their Van Ness campus. UDC plans to install 5 vegetative green roofs as part of an upgrade to the school's stormwater management system. DC-based Bell Architects won the contract to design the rooftops, which will soak up and use water rather than piping it into storm sewers and provide additional cooling. Well, it's been a happy new year for the auto industry. New U.S. January sales figures tell us the industry is continuing its recovery with double-digit increases over last January for nearly every big car company. Chrysler was up 23%, GM up 22%, Nissan up 15%, and Ford up 9%. The good news for the overall economy, it's individual customers buying cars, not fleet sales. But here's the reality check. We're comparing sales to last January, an abysmal month for new cars. Experts say the 12 million new cars we're now up to annually still is far off the 16 million mark car makers were hitting before the recession. Well, stick with us. Our Reporter Roundtable is next.
We are mothers and daughters and sisters and husbands and best friends. And for 2 days and 39 miles, we are one in our commitment to fighting breast cancer. This is Reese Witherspoon. Join me in the fight against breast cancer. Register today for the Avon Walk for Breast Cancer and help us take one step closer to the cure.
Join us in D.C. April 30th and May 1st. Register today and get in it to end it.
It's Empire's whole house sale. Buy 2 rooms of carpet or flooring and get the rest of your rooms free. You can get carpet for the living room, flooring for the kitchen, tile for the bathroom, free when you buy 2 rooms. Shop at home for leading brands like Shaw, Armstrong, and Stainmaster. You'll get professional installation with no interest for a year. Hurry, our whole house sale won't last long. Buy 2 rooms, get the rest free.
800-588-2300 Today. The cold winter can take a big bite out of your wallet, but you can save money by saving energy. Cut your utility bills with these simple tips. Save up to $180 over the next year by installing and properly setting a programmable thermostat. And save about $35 a year by replacing 10 incandescent light bulbs with Energy Star compact fluorescents. They last much longer, so you'll keep saving into the future. Also, be sure to replace dirty air filters to get the biggest bang for your utility buck. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
When it shifts, it goes.
No, it's more of a...
Good news. Just a simple shift solenoid.
It's like a king. It's just your mounts.
Oh. I don't know what this light is.
That's your check engine light. We'll check it for you.
For nearly 50 years, AMCO centers have fixed the most complicated system in your car, the transmission. So it's no wonder people come to us for everything. AA, MCO.
Gotta get your checkers got to get your feast on, get your feast on. Gotta get your.
For those who don't stop until they go over the top, there's Checkers Unbeliever-Burgers, our new smoky bacon burger with grilled onions and bacon like you won't believe, our savory mushroom Swiss, or our bacon cheddar crisp. Now get 2 Unbeliever-Burgers for an unbelievable $3. That ain't eating, that's feasting. Checkers, feast on.
Feast on.
And welcome back. The Obama administration announced a new initiative to help entrepreneurs grow the U.S. economy out of the ditch. The administration calls it Startup America. And the president has recruited Steve Case, co-founder of AOL, and Carl Schramm, president and CEO of the Kauffman Foundation, to lead it. President Obama says our future depends in part on whether or not we're creating an environment that helps business test new ideas and bring new products to the market. We're joined by 2 Washington reporters today to talk about the business news headlines. Melissa Castro is editor and author of Inner Loop at Washington Business Journal, and Kate Anderson-Brower covers business news and the White House for Bloomberg. Kate, let's start with you. You covered the startup of Startup America. What's it about?
Well, it's really part of the White House's effort to reset relations with the business community. So on Monday, they announced that Steve Case would be heading up the Startup America partnership, which involves about $400 million from different companies, including IBM, Intel, that would be helping entrepreneurs and small firms get started, basically, and helping to fund them as an effort to create jobs.
So in sync with what he promised in State of the Union.
Exactly, about out educating, out innovating, and also this Sputnik moment that he talked about in the State of the Union, and that this is a part of what CEOs can bring to the table to help.
So that could be Steve Case's new nickname. We'll call him Sputnik.
Exactly. Exactly.
So tell us about the other group that came to Washington, to the White House this week, that you think was important for that initiative.
Right. Some CEOs from the biggest technology companies in the country came to the White House to talk to the president, including IBM's Sam Palmisano and Ursula Burns from Xerox. And their message to him was really that they support a lot of initiatives that the White House has been behind, including trade, corporate tax reform, and Palmisano said to me after the hour-long meeting, he said, look, 70% of our business is done in other countries, so we do need an even playing field, and that's one of the main messages they brought to the White House on Tuesday. But the president is going to be speaking at the Chamber of Commerce on Monday, which is something to watch out for.
All eyes will be upon, that's right. Now, Melissa, you say one of the big stories of this week, Monument Realty, that's in Washington Business Journal this week. What's that about?
Yeah, Monument Realty has been sort of making the rounds because they finally have some really good news. They were a very exciting company when the market was really hot, and they were one of the biggest profile crashes when things went down because they were so tied to Lehman Brothers. So they went through some tough times. The founder, Michael Darby, at one point even considered, becoming a ski bum because he's actually was almost a professional skier. But he made it back. He made it back. He pulled it together. They have new financing from all kinds of partners. They have a huge tenant with Boeing, and so they're going to be building a big building in Arlington.
Now, I have to say, one of the other big stories, and you go out with a bang, this is your last week after many years on the Washington scene. You and your partner are relocating to Colorado, so congratulations on that. But you managed to get the big scoop. You reported first the Dennis Kucinich lawsuit, which is the big legal story of the past couple of weeks, and it's now been settled. Give us the update on Dennis Kucinich biting into that sandwich and suing the Capitol.
Well, the update is that he settled, but I guess the backstory is that he, for whatever reasons, the guy bought a vegetarian sandwich, which at the House office building, you would think that would probably have olives in it. In fact, I think he knew it had olives in it. Didn't expect a pit.
He wanted unpitted. So the former presidential candidate running on a populist theme when he ran for president and now running on a sue the Longworth cafeteria if you bite into an olive.
The optics were terrible between everybody knowing that Congress has great insurance and between everybody thinking Democrats are aligned with tort lawyers. Not a good scene.
Exactly. Yeah. So he settled pretty quickly, although I'm not sure if he cared what happened to leadership. Well, let's get to the other story that was causing a lot of buzz this week. AIG's chairman, Robert Benmosche, gave a speech here in Washington. Bloomberg broke this. He told people gathered that when it comes to their insured mortgage market, they like to do business in Republican states. He says red states pay their insurance better.
Right. As you can imagine, Democrats were very upset by that. In fact,
and I should say mortgages better is what he was,
Right. Congressman Barney Frank, who's the top Democrat on the House Financial Services Committee, said this was breathtakingly hypocritical.
Given how much money AIG took from the government.
Exactly.
Because his point was, he said, that it's a culture. He said in the blue states, people expect the government to bail them out. Melissa, what's your take on this story?
Did I mention the optics?
Exactly.
Yeah, just poor choice of words. And it kind of felt like a kick in the gut, right? I mean, we talk about national unity and wanting to get beyond this. And then this company that we've all, you have to have national unity to get bailed out.
Okay, and yet he says it's a business model that's working. He's bragging. He's saying we're the only ones with this business model that's working. He says we're the #1 insurer in red states. He says in blue states, we're at the bottom. So he's sharing this great trade secret. Maybe he's onto something?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag, too, because California, yes, has 2 Democratic senators, but Arizona has 2 Republican senators. So, and those are 2 of the states that have the highest foreclosure rates in the country.
And Virginia, historically famous for going from red to blue, and yet I think Virginia mortgage holders would say that they shouldn't be judged by how they voted on whether or not they pay their mortgage payments.
Right.
In fact, our whole region would be bad mortgage payers based on the last presidential. But he doesn't seem to be backing down, and so it's one of those things that we're going to keep on talking about. Melissa Castro, you are going to be missed. You wrote your last column this week, and I thought it was notable that what you did was you sang the praises of the caterers who actually slept in buildings at work to cater the Book of Lists party.
Yeah, that was our big annual event that we have at the Washington Business Journal, and most people were probably alarmed that thing wasn't going to go off. And I was just so impressed that these companies were willing to do this, to spend the night, so that they could pour gas into generators and so that they could sew things by hand to pull this party off.
And make great pomegranate martinis.
Yeah, and it was just a great, great symbol of what Washington's all about.
And that was a nice last column. You'll be missed. Okay, thanks so much to our roundtable. Meantime, don't feel too sorry for former D.C. Mayor Adrian Fenty. The Washington Business Journal is reporting this week the mayor has landed another job, his 3rd since leaving office, as an outside advisor to Arlington-based Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone, as you all know, develops and markets foreign language software, and Rosetta Stone says Fenty's connection to education, government, and corporate decision makers will be valuable assets. Well, stay with us. Up next, we're going to explain the number of the week, 4.5. We hope it doesn't freak you out. We'll tell you why.
Washington Business Report is brought to you by GE, Imagination at Work.
Before he changed the world,
Tear down this wall.
or led a nation,
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
or governed a state,
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
he inspired our company with his optimism, his belief in innovation, and his entrepreneurial spirit.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? What, do you live under a rock?
No way. Hey, Rick, check this out.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Hey, I just went to Jiffy Lube for the first time.
Nice.
Oh, it's more than nice. They keep my car on the road and out of the repair shop. Sure, they've got the Jiffy Lube Signature Service oil change, but they offer more too. Like radiator services, tire rotation, wiper blade replacement, all done fast and without an appointment. You're kidding. I'm not. Yeah, they know what I'm talking about. Woo, Jiffy Lube. Keep my ride alive.
My parents always lived in the States until my dad transferred to Istanbul. They settled in quickly, found their local deli, a few shortcuts, and a neighborhood hangout. But there's one thing they miss, the 7th inning stretch. So Citi helped me use my thank you points to give them something special. Their old seats, 5 and 6, row C.
Use Citi Thank You points for almost anything and earn them fast with the new Citi Thank You Preferred Card. What's your story? Citi can help you write it.
ABC 7 News. All your favorite people now all in one place. ABC 7 News, always on your side.
Our number of the week, $4.50. That's what AutoNation says is our new freakout number, the price to which a gallon of gas can rise without impacting our car buying behavior. Thanks for joining us.
The DC Capital Stars Talent Cup.
Oh, yeah. Business news from the Capital Region. This is Washington Business Report with ABC 7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
And thanks for joining us. Here in Washington, the big business event this week was watching whether love could come out of an unlikely alliance. Emails were exchanged, words were said, pictures were taken, and the flirtation went back and forth. No, we're not talking about Congressman Chris Lee looking on Craigslist. We're talking about President Barack Obama and his speech on Monday to 200 members of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. With just one block for the president to travel from the White House to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, this line got a laugh.
If we had brought over a fruitcake when I first moved in, we would have gotten off to a better start.
There was even applause for this line.
We're trying to run the government a little bit more like you run your business, with better technology and faster services.
But it was mostly a skeptical crowd with little clapping. There were plenty of promises made by the president, including a vow to ramp up spending on education and infrastructure to spur economic growth, and a promise to reform the corporate tax code. The president also urged companies to start spending and reinvest the now nearly $2 trillion on business balance sheets.
Ask yourselves what you can do to hire more American workers, what you can do to support the American economy and invest in this nation.
But Republican Senator Tom Coburn told us that, like many in the business audience, he'll wait to see if the president delivers on promises.
We've heard a lot, but we've seen a lot of action exactly opposite of that. So I think we wait and see. I'm willing to give him a chance to change.
A chance to change. Well, joining us today, two business leaders who were in the audience for that speech. David Shavern is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Tony Hill is a Chamber member and Managing Partner of Maryland-based Edwards & Hill Office Furniture. So let me start with you as a business owner. Did you hear what you needed to from the president?
Overall, I think yes, because what I heard was we're going to work together. We want to get to the same place. We may have different ideas about how we get there, but we'll work this out. And for me, I think that's good news.
David, for the chamber, what were the highlights of the speech? What were the things you most wanted to hear and did?
Well, I think the general theme certainly resonated with our members. It was a good speech, you know, talking about entrepreneurship and the need for business to be the creative jobs in the economy. A little bit light on specifics, but that happens with these speeches. And I think going forward, it's will the actions meet the rhetoric, as the senator noted.
Well, so some of the specifics that the chamber has said since the speech they needed to have better answered. You and other officials have said that when it comes to the corporate tax code, actually the president's speech raised more questions than it gave answers. What did you mean by that?
Well, in terms of the big principle, expand the base, lower the rate, that's a principle nobody could argue with, and we'd be happy to work towards that goal. But how you get there is the whole game, and the devil will be in the details and all that. And so you really need to talk about exactly what would be cut or changed in order to have a real assessment of that.
So give us an idea, as a Maryland business owner, what are some of the specific problems you have with the tax code that could be changed by the president?
Well, the rate for one, of course, which we all would look forward to that being lowered. I think for me as a business owner, it's having it be so cumbersome. I have to spend a great deal of time with paperwork, with making sure that everything is put together properly so that at the end of the year I can do this or do that. If it could be simplified so that I didn't have to spend as much time dealing with those details, I could then obviously put that time and effort into growing my business. So overall, I think if it were less cumbersome.
David, I saw, I think it was World Bank put together a study of tax codes across the globe, and they factored in that cumbersome process. How much time does it actually take businesses? And the U.S. is far behind many other countries. I think Bahrain scored the highest, and we were like 63rd worst in terms of the burden on businesses. So it's not just the tax rate. What do you think will be the things that the chamber would push for hardest in terms of changes?
Well, we kind of have the worst of all worlds in terms of a tax system now, because the nominal rates are quite high. We have the highest corporate tax rates among the developed countries. But the complexity is such that similar businesses could pay wildly different tax rates. I think we'll be amenable to looking at simplification, getting at some of the issues Tony's described, and certainly ways to expand the base if we get that rate down. But it's, this is a big job.
Now, the business community has been very honest in saying that they feel like there hasn't been a seat at the table for them in the Obama administration. Did you feel that this was a sincere reaching out?
I do, because the president didn't, I think, not just come and say to us maybe what he thought we wanted to hear. I think he was honest. He said, all regulation isn't bad. And that's true, we need some. But he also said that simplification and really allowing the regulations to be a little flexible in terms of, I guess, putting a human side to it. And that's sometimes what happens in the government when you have it on paper and nobody's willing to look at the particular case. You can sometimes miss the mark.
So lift the veil, take us behind closed doors, tell us what's going on. Does the chamber have a seat at the White House now? Are you being called into meetings with the new chief of staff? Are you being called in to help advise them on specific ways to change the tax code and find new capital?
Well, there are actually things we're working together on, which is, it's a good development. The first one being trade. We're working closely with the administration on the South Korea Free Trade Agreement along with Panama and Colombia. We're supportive of what they want to do in infrastructure finance, education reform. So it's we're getting to work together on a few discrete items, and hopefully that'll grow to a longer list.
How many times a week or a month would you say someone from the chamber gets called over to the White House to sit in on meetings and help talk about strategy?
I don't know if I could quantify it in any accurate way, but I mean, we communicate regularly, and that's as it should be.
And is it getting better? In
Sure.
the new era with Daley and others being brought in to try to reach out more?
And Bill Daley's a great leader with both political and business experience, somebody we can talk to about business issues. Might not always agree, by the way, but at least he understands where we're coming from. So yes, it is a thawing, and that's a good thing both for our members and for the country as a whole.
And that's what's exciting for me.
Well, we'll have to have you both back in a few months to see how it's going from there. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And stay with us. We'll discuss the President's Business Initiative and more in our Reporter Roundtable. That's coming up next.
Ackerman Security, the sign of real security.
Safety and class-leading fuel economy? Hyundai has it. With the all-new Hyundai Sonata. Best in class 35 MPG. That's better than Honda Accord. Better than the Toyota Camry. On top of that, Hyundai Sonata is now recommended as a top safety pick. And you're covered with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. With all this, no wonder Hyundai Sonata is the fastest-growing car in America. Right now, Sonatas start at only $199 a month. Visit your Washington area Hyundai dealers today.
Why is travel these days about what you give up and not what you get? like electricity for gadget power at your seat, room to stretch your legs and your wingspan, food when you're hungry, and taking off your shoes only if you feel like it. These aren't luxuries, they're basics. Get them back on Acela.
Amtrak Guest Rewards members take 3 round trips on Acela and get 1 free. Details on Amtrak.com.
For the grand opening of Our Eyes in Leesburg and Glenarden, we're offering half off a complete pair of glasses. And now for the first time ever, no exclusions, no exceptions. Save on all frames and all lenses, top designers and name brands, or our stylish private brand collection. Also, get half off non-glare, transitions, or polarized lenses. That's 50% off a complete pair of glasses. All frames, all lenses, even sunglasses. This half off sale won't last long. Hurry in today. Our Eyes. Why pay more?
The deeper you go, the more good things you learn about oil and natural gas, an industry that supports 9.2 million American jobs, with 20% new jobs in natural gas alone since 2006. And from the energy and manufacturing plants to the fertilizer on the farm to the building blocks for tomorrow's medicines, we're fueling all kinds of jobs. So the next time we discover more oil and natural gas together underground, think of all the good that means above ground. Log on to learn more.
If you need a mattress, why go to a furniture store? Go to the professionals. Sleepy's, the mattress professionals.
And welcome back. We'd like to welcome 2 reporters to our roundtable who have been in the thick of business news all week. Jean Cummings is Politico's assistant managing editor in charge of enterprise. She's been following the administration's outreach to the business community. Zach Goldfarb covers financial policy for the Washington Post. He's been closely following changes ahead for Fannie, Freddie, and the home mortgage industry. Well, thanks to you both for joining us. Zach, let's start with you because there are big changes afoot for Fannie and Freddie. What is the administration proposing?
So last week, the administration announced basically 2 steps they're going to take to overhaul the nation's housing system. Now, remember that housing was at the center of the financial crisis and recession. And now, finally, they're willing and ready to tackle this last part. The administration announced 2 basic things. First, immediate steps. This is going to be winding down all the government emergency support and all the government programs that have been unveiled in the past few years for housing. These have been subsidies to try to keep mortgage rates low, to try to make it easier to buy a more expensive house, all sorts of medicine needed for a very sick housing market. That's the immediate term step. The longer term step isn't a specific proposal, but a list of 3 options for how to, in the long term, over 5, 7 or more years, overhaul how the country handles housing. And the basic fundamental question is, should the government, i.e. taxpayers, be backing and be behind mortgages? Should they be the guarantor of mortgages, or should it be a private market system?
So these 3 different proposals rolled out by the Treasury Department, and basically they said, here are the 3 ideas. We'll let Congress decide the best, or basically variations of get out of the business entirely, get into the business only in times of crisis, or still have some role in providing some kind of insurance. Now, you wrote this week in the Washington Post that while Republicans favor getting out of the business entirely, there are some businesses, like small banks, that are quite nervous about that idea.
Right. This is a lobbyist and interest group free-for-all. So small banks, they're worried that if the government gets out of the business, big banks, which have the capacity and scale to run mortgages across the country, will dominate that market and exclude them. Real estate agents, borrowers don't want higher interest rates, don't want housing to be more expensive. On the other hand, if you're concerned about taxpayers on the line, and certainly taxpayers have been on the line to the degree of hundreds of billions of dollars in the past few years, you don't want the government to have as extensive a role as it's had. So this is going to be an ideological and economic huge debate to come.
Now, Jean, you wrote this week about the big date this week between the president and the Chamber of Commerce. And at any date, everyone has something that they want out of it. Who wanted what from this event?
Well, I think the president wanted to turn the temperature down. I think he wanted to restore a relationship with the business community, in part because it's good for him politically. For 2012, it sends a more centrist message and image. However, he also needs the business community to help him get votes in the Republican House. His White House can't do that. The business community can. So that's what he needs out of it. From the business side, they have real issues that they would like to see addressed. And I don't think they've all been comfortable with the notion that they're at war with the White House. They too wanted to bring down the temperature. They too have things they want to pass. So if they work together, they could probably get a few things.
But you wrote this week in Politico that you're smelling the whiff of desperation from this White House when it comes to the economy. What did you mean by that?
Well, there will not be a recovery if the business community and small businesses in particular are not able to begin hiring people. That job number comes down not through a government program, but through a rebound in the private market. And so the White House can't make that happen by itself. So it's turning to the business community, basically saying, what do you want? We'll fix it. What is it? And hurry up and get it done.
Then the president wants something back, and you say his message to them was, start spending some money. You've got capital on reserve.
He said to them, get in the game. I was really amazed at those words because they were very direct. Get in the game. And he appealed to them as patriots, and he told them all the goodies he put on the table. You don't like the tax code that you already wrote? Come on back. We'll rewrite it together. What do you want? So, yeah, it was very clear that he really wants the business community.
Like any date, sometimes being a little too desperate can be a bad thing. Well, talk about someone who's not desperate. Arianna Huffington. Usually the week after the Super Bowl, the big media news is who won the ad wars. We get it. The kid who played Darth Vader won it, hands down. He gets my vote. But the big news quickly became AOL buying Huffington Post for $315 million. Zach, what's your take on this?
I think it shows that we're really in the middle of a long story about American media. AOL really became a famous company only 15 years ago when it introduced the internet to millions of people, and it's gone through many iterations of that so far. Huffington Post has been around for 4 or 5 years, and it's become now a major brand name in this country's media landscape. So in just a few years, things can change dramatically and very fast, and so I think we're just in the middle. We don't know whether old media, new media, some merger is going to be the dominant form of the next 100 years, 50 years, and so it's just remarkable.
Jean, what's your take? It's certainly been the buzz here in Washington.
Oh, yes, big buzz in political circles. And what I find really interesting is that liberals are complaining that the Huffington Post may lose its progressive edge because it's now gone mainstream looking.
Which is so funny that AOL is now considered the mainstream media, but that is the talk.
But AOL is getting criticized by conservatives because now they're worried that they're going to be part of the progressive camp, and so you can't win.
Well, talk about winners. One thing the business community always likes to talk about are who made cake in this deal. So we prepared a little fact sheet for everyone. The big talk was some people speculating Arianna took home as much as $100 million cash from the deal. Not so, said Matt Drudge, and it turned out the business experts say Matt Drudge is right. The speculation is Arianna Huffington made about $10 to $30 million out of the $315 million deal. Her co-founder, Ken Lair, a venture capitalist, he speculated to make somewhere between $30 to $50 million. SoftBank Capital, that's a venture capital group led by Ron Fisher, they made $75 million, and I had to note on his website today, they have a picture morphing of the serious Ron Fisher to the smiling Ron Fisher. I wasn't surprised by that. And then Graycroft Partners, that was the other big venture capital group backing Huffington Post from the beginning. They probably made $25 to $50 million is the speculation. They've done lots of technology startups, but also companies like Jamba Juice. Someone who didn't make a lot of money out of the deal, but we'll see whether he gets to keep his job or not, Tim Armstrong, the AOL CEO. So one for us to keep watching. Thanks to our roundtable. And stick with us. Up next, a nonprofit success story that's drawing international attention.
Washington National Opera presents Madama Butterfly, a tale of love, honor, and sacrifice. February 26th through March 19th at the Kennedy Center Opera House. You can win 4 box seat tickets. Log on to contest.tbd.com/opera and enter today.
Hi, we're looking to save some money on our car insurance.
Great! At Progressive, you can compare rates side by side so you get the same coverage, often for less.
Wow, that is huge.
And this is to remind you that you could save hundreds.
Yeah, that'll certainly stick with me.
We'll take it.
Go, big money! I mean, go, it's your break, honey.
Same coverage, more savings. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today.
Come and cuddle by the fire in the evening. We'll forget about the snow and rain. While the skies are stormy, your arms will warm me. It's winter again. It's so thrilling when it's chilly in the winter. and the frost is on the window pane. Hear the sleigh bells ring, my heart is singing. It's winter again, the wind may blow. Who cares, just let it blow. I'll write to you love letters in the snow. Then we'll cuddle by the fire in the evening. We'll forget about the snow and rain. While the skies are stormy, your arms will warm me. It's winter again.
Don't you just love February? Why not get away on a cruise from Baltimore? Book today at RoyalCaribbean.com.
There's no force like the one that comes from joining forces. No strength like strength in numbers. The kind of numbers delivered by Ram 1500, a 390 horsepower Hemi V8, 20 mpg, a 5-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Strength in numbers. Now, during Ram Truck Month.
Now well-qualified lessees can lease a 2011 Ram Quad SLT Bighorn 4x4 for $299 a month.
And our kids look forward to it every year. It's so much fun. It's been fantastic. Love it. We love the Waters.
Playing the Patriot Center and the Verizon Center this weekend.
The perfect storm of economic distress, unemployment, and underemployment has had a silver lining for one well-known nonprofit, Goodwill. Goodwill sells donated goods to finance its jobs trainings program and says business is booming.
Thank you for all your donations!
Drop by the drop-off at any Goodwill collection site like this one on Glebe Road, and you'll see a nonprofit success story. Now, with more than 2,500 stores across the U.S. and Canada, Goodwill has become a business model for nonprofits across the globe, all wanting to emulate their strategy of making money from donated items resold in retail stores.
I'm able to give something to put a light in someone's heart, then that's what I want to do.
The numbers are impressive. Goodwill executives say they now generate so much revenue from retail that fundraising only accounts for 2% of their total income, a number any nonprofit would envy. The Washington region now has 11 brick-and-mortar stores, and social media is becoming a big part of the plan for the future. Goodwill's now on Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, and many mobile apps.
And Brennan Hurley is Senior Vice President for Goodwill of Greater Washington, where he oversees marketing and communications. Brennan Hurley, thanks for joining us. So some impressive numbers posted for profits in 2010. Tell us a little bit about how you did in the past year.
2010 was a great year for Goodwill of Greater Washington. We generated about $25 million in revenue, and 93 cents out of every dollar to Goodwill funds our job training programs.
Nice thing about doing the show, I learned something new every day. I learned that beyond the retail stores that we all know about, I did not realize Goodwill also has services in pest control, custodial services, ground maintenance. You even have some optical stores. Tell us how broad the reach is of Goodwill.
Goodwill is what is known as a social enterprise, which means that we're a nonprofit charitable agency, but we have a traditional business model. So we run a variety of businesses, including our chain of retail stores. Goodwill of Greater Washington also has a pest control service, grounds maintenance services, facilities maintenance services, and custodial services. What's unique about Goodwills across the country is that they can all run different lines of business. Some serve or have optical programs, as you mentioned, but we all have the same mission, which is really workforce development focused.
Now, it's become such a successful business model that last week you had guests in from around the world, including some delegates from Egypt, nonprofits wanting to learn how to be a successful business like Goodwill. Tell us a little bit about that training session and why they all came here.
It was a learning experience for all of us, I think. They were here trying to identify best practices that they might be able to replicate back in their homelands. And so we spent some time discussing some of the challenges that they face back in the Middle East and in North Africa, and shared some of the success stories and some of the ways we operate here in the hopes they might be able to replicate them.
And you told us earlier this week that you learned that the model may not work everywhere, that in Iraq it's considered very embarrassing to wear what we call vintage here in the U.S., resold clothes. You say it's not a problem in Egypt and some other places.
That's right. Many of the NGOs that came to visit us said that that was not an issue for them at all. In Iraq, they said culturally it's not acceptable to accept and sell donated goods, which is fine. There are other models that might be more effective for them.
So keep going and keep growing is your motto for the new year.
We're trying.
Okay, Brennan Hurley, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we keep seeing signs of life in our region's real estate market, signs that must make most of the country jealous. Another batch of numbers came in this week from the National Association of Realtors, showing the median price of an existing home in the Washington market went up 8.1% in the third quarter of 2009 to $331,100. But if you're in the market for a house now, you may spend more for a mortgage. 30-year fixed mortgages are back above 5%, climbing last week to 5.05%. That's up from 4.81 the week before. And 15-year mortgages averaged 4.29. That's up from 4.08. And we've got earnings reports from two important players in the Washington area this week. McLean-based Booz Allen Hamilton declared a profit of $23.6 million in the 3-month period that ended December 31st. That's up from $1.3 million during the same period in 2009. Aerospace giant Northrop Grumman, soon moving to Fairfax County, reported last week an earning decline in the fourth quarter of 2010. Fourth quarter earnings totaled $376 million, but that's down from $413 million a year earlier. Northrop Grumman said weak sales in aerospace, electronics, and information systems all caused slippage. And up next, our number of the week. It's 3. We'll tell you why right after the break.
I'm Doug Hill, and I'm always on your side.
I found you, my elusive little beauties. Here I come. Yoo-hoo. Closer. Closer. Now. Don't move.
Oh. There's an easier way to collect lottery logos. Play the $2 million logo hunt from the Maryland Lottery. Look for logos when you play any terminal game. Collect all 3 for a chance to win up to $250,000. You can also win free plays on your favorite games.
Nominate a super teacher. Winners receive cash prizes, school supplies, and one will even win a cruise. To nominate your super teacher, go to VALottery.com. Deadline February 14th.
With standard leather, Bluetooth, moonroof, and a 360-watt sound system, the Acura TSX stands up quite well to the competition. And when you consider it gets up to 31 highway miles to the gallon, you begin to see why the TSX is literally miles ahead. The Acura TSX. Discover it in a test drive.
Visit your DC area Acura dealer for attractive lease rates for well-qualified customers.
America's beverage companies are working together to put more information right up front, adding new calorie labels to every single can, bottle, and pack they produce, so you can make the choice that's right for you.
Disney on Ice presents Princess Wishes. Enter a world where princesses dare to dream. It's the wonder of Ariel, the determination of Belle, the adventure of Jasmine, the kindness of Snow White, and a little magic from Tinkerbell. Get tickets today and make your little princes and princesses' wishes come true. Arrive early for the Princess Pre-Show and be enchanted by a live Disney princess and a fairy tale collection of gowns, free to ticket holders. Coming to the Verizon Center February 16th through 21st. Sponsored by Kraft Singles.
Welcome back, and now for our number of the week, 3. That's how many companies based in the Washington region you'll find on Fortune magazine's list of the 100 best companies to work for. At number 71 on the list, Bethesda-based Marriott International. Fortune noted Marriott's decision to maintain health coverage even for those employees whose hours were reduced during the recession. McLean-based Booz Allen Hamilton comes in 85th, getting credit for team-building activities like wine tastings. And nonprofit research firm MITRE, also based in McLean, ranked 96th. Fortune noted MITRE's retirement plan that pays retirees as much as 100% of their final salary. And thanks for joining us this week. Be sure to watch us next week on ABC7's Washington Business Report. We'll be reporting on President Obama's budget proposal and its impact on businesses in our region. Also, the Reporters Roundtable and more. We hope to see you then. As always, you can look at the show by going to our website, tbd.com, search Washington Business Report. I'm Rebecca Cooper. Thanks for joining us.
Geico. Saving people money on more than just car insurance.
The DC Capital Stars Talent Competition is back, and we want your vote.
See DC's most talented teams compete for a chance to win a college